Hello, my name is JamesLFoo Torres, but you can call me Foo. And today I'm feeling a little rebellious and talking about Medicina Rebelde, which is rebel medicine here with Alyhope. She's called on Instagram, where her name is Alyssa Willoughby.
Yeah,
I'm so
attaboy.
bad at saying her last name.
It's okay. I couldn't spell it when I was a kid anyway. So, yes, Alyssa Hope Willoughby. Nice to meet you. Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I feel like I can talk to you forever, and we're so aligned in so many ways. So I'm so happy to have you here to talk about what people call alternative medicine, or what I call like Medicina Rebelde, which is like rebel medicine, and in reality probably should be the actual traditional medicine. But we'll get into things. So let's kick it off with a quick introduction about yourself and what you're focusing on right now.
So, again, my name is Alyssa Hope. Nice to meet you. I started my business about 4 years ago after losing my father, unfortunately, to opioid addiction, which was the irony because he basically raised us not taking medication. So, having like this spiritual moment really did bring me to my spirituality, and it really brought me into focusing like what was important, what I wanted to cultivate into my life, especially in the weird time that we were in the world. And somehow I ended up in Puerto Rico. So,
Right.
it worked out really well. I started focusing on my health, which ultimately made people gravitate towards me that wanted to better their own health. And it was really like a practice and trial error of where I learned so much through my clients, like where I was supposed to be the teacher, but in spirituality, like you're always going to be the student. So I went back into the bare necessity of what wellness is. And while the pharmaceutical world really does like force their direction into what is called wellness, there are ways to basically cure yourself by yourself through yourself. And this is why I called my company Principle Yoga, because it is in the principles that we are able to find what it is that we seek. Now, I like to think of myself as a spiritual gangster in regards to yoga is my tool of method. I like to see it as like a hitman. You either use like a knife or you use a gun.
Yeah.
I
That's
use
like your
yoga.
toolkit.
Yeah.
You call yourself
Yeah.
consultant. I don't know how you call yourself.
Yeah, I would say I'm definitely more of like a wellness consultant, because I feel like a coach is going to sit there with you day to day and basically tell you the script that you need to live by. And that's not really how I see wellness or even spirituality. It really is like a learn as you go on an individual journey. And so if there's something that I can bring into your life that will improve your overall wellness, then that's what I'm going to do. I've had clients that basically ask me about ice baths, hot saunas, different facilities around the world to go to in order to partake in spiritual cleansings. And basically I'll go and review those facilities. I'll give them my actual review on it, whether that is their nutritional courses, whether that's their actual medicine treatments, or that is their just extended stays. Sometimes spirituality and wellness really is just getting away from your environment for a couple days just to clear your head.
Awesome.
But I like to say I'm a spiritual gangster.
Spiritual gangster. I love that.
Yeah, spiritual gangster. Yeah.
That sounds like a group name. We should definitely make
Yeah,
spiritual gangsters.
Honestly, I'd be down. I feel like I need to make Atlanta proud by bringing in the street cred in the wellness space, because it is. I mean, it's a spiritual warfare and it's a wellness warfare.
Definitely.
Yeah.
There's I mean, with all these things that are happening and the clear evidence that pharmaceuticals are there to make money. They're not really want to heal people, and all the natural ways don't get funded, because if anybody can get access to it and they cannot monetize it, then what's the incentive, right?
Well, so that's actually kind of the more interesting part, because it's not even just the making it inaccessible. It's like making the knowledge inaccessible to the general pop. And that is the biggest takeaway that I kind of looked at it, because the reality is you can still have a business and you can still have a drive to push your products, and we'll hypothetically say it's a pharmaceutical world, but it's in a monopoly if there's not an available access. Sorry. If there's not an available access.
I just said monopoly, and then I think about...
Oh my God, yeah, that's true. The monopoly in the background. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, I mean, but it is. It literally is a monopoly if the information is not available. And I mean easily available. And that is what made me kind of like eye-opening to the fact that like, okay, there might be like a little bit of a force guide down one projection rather than, hey, we want to make you healthy. Let's cover your options of like X, Y, and Z, and then you can make this decision on which way you would go. But I mean, you can talk to any older generation, like they will happily pop a pill, call it a day, and
there's always like, oh, I have something. Oh, let me just get something for it.
There's a pill for it.
There's a pill for it, and rather than, okay, what's wrong with me? How can I get back to alignment or get back to ground zero or to you know, like to center? You know, there's many names for it, right?
Yeah. I mean, the crazy thing too is like, you may think that you're sick when you're not sick, but mentally, right? There's something going on that is now causing your body to physically show ailments, and this is why I think like, you know, the mind, body, and your spirit are truly interwoven. One cannot happen without the other. Or, I mean, I'm sure there's people out in the world that do, you know, live as an example of that. But the truth is, like, if you're not good in the head, you're not good in the body. If you're not good in the body, you're not good in your soul. And it's kind of like germs, you know, like when you go around shaking people's hands and it's like anger or depression or sadness, like you can leave that on other people. And so there comes an importance to responsibility to not only like yourself, but to your community. And I've seen so many things in the world that really all it takes is just an acceptance of saying like, I'm not going to do what happened to me to another person just because it happened to me. And so really that's why I started my business, was just teaching people about, and I mean this, the most basic run of the mill wellness, just tips and tricks and practices.
Yeah. And it's ironic almost that that's what is alternative medicine. That it's why I call this the Medicina Rebelde.
Yeah.
It's like the main topic of what we're talking here
And
today, and what I'm making retreats of, and we're building a whole business out of that Medicina Rebelde, because we have found that as we've gone through retreats and talking with people and learning all these alternative ways, then what reality should be the regular ways, the natural ways, the norm, the average way that people do things, but unfortunately here in this side of the world, right, in the Western side of the world, it's just the alternative, the woo-woo.
I know, which is the craziest thing too, because like I keep going back to the concept of like which came first, like the chicken or the egg. And reality is like the pharmaceutical world would not be around if like herbalism wasn't known before they eradicated the knowledge of it, right? Like Tylenol is willow bark. It's literally like bark from a tree, right? Native Americans actually used to make their bow and arrows from willow bark. So like if they got hurt like out way from their tribe and they got hurt, they just chew on their bark. Yeah. Like, and that's like the crazy thing that like, it seems so silly and so simplistic that it seems like it was first before the pharmaceutical world. And I'm like, okay, hold on. So who got who kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's really just the simplicity of it. There are so many things around you, whether that's weeds that you think are weeds, like dandelions, like
I've heard about that. Like I saw videos and people make teas of dandelions and all that. And now we've been taught to be like, those are weeds, kill them.
Yeah,
and
no,
all
those
that.
are witches,
like,
right? We need to go burn them. And like this, like straight up, like I fully believe like the witch trials were straight up just like eradicating like herbalism. Like straight up, like there were no male doctors back in the day. Like midwives weren't just delivering babies. They were literally the community healers. They were the ones that were at like, and yeah, they were making potions per se, but I mean, you would look at dandelion tea as a potion, right? Like,
exactly. I mean, that kind of can be considered a potion. You're putting some herbs together and like boiling them and all that, and then you probably put some other stuff on the side, and then you create this potion. But that doesn't mean that it's not poison.
No, it's not
right?
like bruja, right? Like you're not going to go in
not
and like, you know, put a spell on anybody, but like it's so backwards to me, just like of how like older generations are like, no, this is like evil, or this is like not orthodox or like organized. And I'm like, we're literally getting to the first step of the process here. So maybe it's not like a lack of awareness, but maybe it's a lack of self knowledge, because it's very easy to be told something if you don't know anything about it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, if you don't know, then whatever somebody tells you, then you're like, well, I mean, sounds good to me because I don't know any better.
Yeah.
Right. That's why education is so important. And with that, it's how you typically, when you start getting educated, you start learning more. That's kind of you trigger that spiritual journey. I think because you start knowing more and you start having that awareness.
Yep.
And then when you have that awareness, then it's like, now you can, you don't have that ignorance, right? Yeah. It's like, and then you keep looking because it's like, well, one thing links to the other, right? So how was it for you? I mean, it's a never ending journey for sure, but how that journey, like how you started this journey and how it got you to where you're at right now.
Okay. So most people don't find spirituality, whether that is religious space or like religion or spirituality, unless something happens, right? You have a tower moment. You have like a catastrophic moment that literally you need something bigger than who you are to help guide you through this. And ultimately, and ironically, that's what I was telling you earlier, my beginning story is kind of funny, right? Because my father, who was really big on not giving me medication when I was younger, was like, don't trust anybody, like, look at what's happening and just make the decision for yourself. Very much a Plato's Allegory of the Cave, right? Ironically, he died from an opioid overdose. He was being overprescribed in the state of Utah by like 5 different doctors. Everything was very hush-hush. They kind of tried to say that it happened because of a certain thing. And then I was like, oh, hell no. And then went down this whole entire journey of where I was like, okay, no, I want like medical records. I want to know like who his doctors were. And the VA is as wonderful and as helpful as they are. Everything kind of has its downfalls. So that alone really did take me down like my journey of spirituality of, just asking like, and this is going to sound horrible, not just like, oh my God, why did you take him? But I was more of like, God, why didn't you let me do it? Right. Because, I loved my father and he really did raise me to be such an amazing woman. And I will be forever grateful for that. But my dad was an ex-Navy SEAL. He was really good at spotting women that he could kind of take advantage of in a way. And not in like the most horrible ways, but, narcissism is a real thing. And to be very frank, there's not many Navy SEALs who are not sociopathic. Not that there's anything wrong with this, but to have a really hard job, you have to kind of be a little messed up in the head. So, I went through my own journey of really understanding that like what happened to me with like the physical abuse or what happened to like my mother or the women in my family wasn't because he was a monster. It was because generational trauma. If it happened to you, it'll probably happen to your kids and so on and so forth. And until there's somebody in the family that literally is like,
breaks the chains.
Yeah, you have to like straight, like really, but like, yeah. And I didn't see anybody in my family really break chains. I just saw them kind of comply and kind of go with everything. And, what happened 4 years ago, I think that's when I really started becoming vocal. I'm like, no, like you can call me crazy. You can call me whatever you want, but no, we're not doing this. We're going to get really healthy. We're going to work out. We're going to make sure we're eating the right foods and we're taking care of our mental health. Okay. Like if anybody gets sick, you can put that on me and I will happily live with that for the rest of my life. But thankfully, nobody in my family like followed through with it. And then that kind of just catapulted my business. Like what else was I being told that wasn't the truth in regards to wellness, right? When somebody said you were not allowed to go outside, right? Like I went to school for biochemistry. Like I read stories about popping babies outside in -5-degree weather if they had jaundice to help cure it from the sunlight. Okay. And so the sun has been such a big healing factor in so many cultures, not even just like Native Americans, like all over the world to take that one thing that really is a key ingredient. I was like, okay, something's not adding up here kind of thing. And during the time, it's very hard to make your own decisions. It's a scary time. And honestly, unless you are confident in your own decision-making process and you know yourself well enough, you're not going to make these decisions. It is so hard to go against the current of your community, your direct family. I mean, even of your friends.
Yeah, and when they're like, make them like vaccine passports and things.
Oh
like
my
that.
God!
It's like,
like,
making it almost impossible to travel and all that. Like,
no, but it was fear mongering.
Definitely.
Like, here's the thing, right? I didn't get it. I didn't stop traveling.
I know a lot of people that did the same
Yeah,
thing.
and like here's the thing, it turned into like the people who tested it and the people who were like who just complied. They were like, okay, no, we're gonna listen to it. We're gonna keep our community safe. And just so we're clear, I was very serious about it for 6 months. Like my boyfriend at the time, I was teaching him how to like medically seal off a room. If I got infected or sick, like I took this seriously. I'm like, no, the contagion spread is a real thing. But at the end of the day, I looked around and I'm like, okay, if the numbers are what they are, I got to know somebody directly, like in my inner circle, right? I'm not talking about like the long lost cousin or your third cousin twice removed or your ex grandmother or, you know, your rabbi or your priest, like wife who passes away from this. I mean, like I needed to know somebody directly that got sick, and I didn't. I know a lot of people who got sick, right? Of like everybody was saying like, oh yes, I have COVID. I'm like, okay, so what happened to the flu? You know, like what happened to like the common cold? Like what happened to strep throat? But all this was gone, and I'm like, okay, I'm a data nerd. And I made the decision to look at the data for what it was, and I made the decisions to live my life in the way that I did. And it worried me to see everybody else really just closed off in fear. And if it wasn't for my father teaching me to use discernment, to use a process of elimination, to question the things that people are telling me versus the things that I'm seeing, I don't think I would be here. Like, really, I don't. And so because of my father's passing in a horrible way that it really did set off this entire trajectory of where, like, I don't want to be like my father. Not that he wasn't a great man, like, brilliant man. He really did teach me everything that I know. But the things that, like, lay on you, right, that are heavy, like the shame aspect of whether it's domestic abuse, whether it's, like, addiction, or just, like, the really bad stuff we don't want to bring out of the closet, the weight of that keeps you stuck. And so the best thing that I could do was talk about it. I talked to other people about it. And then I realized that other people are going through the exact same thing in one way or the other. And I'm like, okay, well, there's nothing holding me back now. Like, okay, like what else can we do kind of thing? And I don't see the body separate from the mind, and I don't see the mind separate from the spirit. And whether you look at it as secular or non-secular, based on religion or based on spirituality, there's a little voice that we have in us. And sometimes we can't hear this because of what we're eating. And this is a really big one too, because like the number one place you start healing if you want to get better, and it's not going to the gym, it's not like pumping it up and gaining weight or even gaining muscle, it's healing your gut. You'd be shocked by how many people are actually just experiencing parasites rather than they are actual sickness. And this was pretty...
I've heard about that. Been seeing more and more videos about it and just get more and more freaked out.
So like literally in Atlanta, I was interning at this hospital that is a multiple sclerosis like head center in Atlanta. I started working with charities for multiple sclerosis. The oh my gosh, what is it? The Feeding the Children charity. There was like 3 other ones that I was working with. And I saw so many people in so many different stages of MS, and I couldn't believe it. I got so much empathy and sympathy and just wanted to help in any way that I could. Now, in the 4 years that I was there, not one person talked about anything about a parasite, like not one. And then if you go on NIH.com, you can look up all of these like peer reviews that are medically certified. And then there's a 2014 peer review talking about parasites being connected to MS.
And if you do think about it, I mean...
Yeah, and like when you go in for an MRI to see like where the tear in like the spinal column is, you do see these like little fragments. And if you want to go and see how many parasites you have, I'd look at getting an MRI. Because you're gonna be shocked by it. So when I realized the money that was
freaked out,
yeah,
like I am.
yeah, and it's not saying that like anybody's corrupt. Like I don't think that anybody is like. I mean, I hope nobody's doing it on purpose. But you kind of have to start looking at it like there's a better way of treating people that is not as rough as some of these treatments. More importantly, I don't think that you should be on medications for your entire life for treatment, right? your symptoms are there because there's an illness. And in pharmaceuticals treat your symptom. They don't treat the illness. So when I started going down into this, I realized the importance of nutrition. Most doctors are not required to take a nutritionist class.
Yeah.
That should be concerning. Very concerning.
Yeah.
Because we're also the only country that doesn't use food as medicine.
Which is absolutely bananas.
Yeah. So I guess like my rebellious stage in all of this really came from going against what everybody was telling me and taking the biggest chance that there was and seeing if I was right. And that was overall like what could have potentially been my life if I had made the bad call. And, you know, this whole entire thing was as serious as it was. And I'm not saying that it isn't, but there's always like three parts to a truth, right? There's your perception of the truth. There's my perception of the truth. And when we have a conversation, an academic conversation, not a debate, not an argument, we're able to create one whole picture. And this is what's supposed to be happening in society. But even that art's kind of been taken back a little bit.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm very big on when I am having any kind of discussion, because I want to define terms of what we're talking. I want to make sure that we come into a common ground, you
100%.
know, that we can build from there.
Oh, 100%.
Right? Because if you think I'm saying something and I think I'm saying something else, but then, you know, then things lose the meaning. So that's why I love like people like Alex Hormozy, for example. He's huge in, okay, let's define terms. Like, what does strategy means? And then let's talk about strategy. Oh, how did you define this? And then let's talk about it. Right? So that's why I've been, you know, asking you these things. And so we make sure that we define this. So
it's funny that you talk about frequency, because I think it's a really important point to make this. It's not only just like mental and, you know, physical, but literally you have to be at a certain frequency to hear information. Because like your mind your mind is there to keep you safe and to keep homeostasis. If there is information that's coming in that is not in alignment with what's encoded in your belief, you won't hear it. Somebody can try and beat it into you and you will not hear it. And back to Plato's allegory, you can't tell people that they're in a cave. You have to allow them to see the way that you are exiting the cave, question why you're leaving the cave, start looking at the road to the cave and say, okay, do I want to make that decision? And honestly, there's nothing wrong with you if you don't want to make that decision. It could be the fact that you're older, you just don't want to do it. And I get that. Like, nobody wants to change who they are or their character or their diet at like, 40, 50, 60. Like, no, you are grown. You are stuck in your character. This is who you are, and this is who you will die being, you know? But there's so many things that I'm learning in the world that are contradicting what I've been told, kind of thing. So I'm like, you know what? At this point, I'm just gonna test and go as much as I can.
That's how I am too. It's like I listen to everybody, and I come in with my own conclusions based on all the information that has been given to me, and some assumptions often, right?
This is the way.
It's just, and then I am okay with the fact of, okay, I choose to believe this because this and this and this. And then from there, I build from there. And that's it. And if you think about it, everything's based, our reality is based on our beliefs.
100%.
Right? So I decide, you know, what beliefs serve me and which ones doesn't.
Yes.
And then I adjust accordingly.
Congratulations, you're being a human. I'm proud of you. You're being a very good human.
That's my, that's part of my healing journey, right? That's how I being healing is that also like things that happen in like business was a big part for me, because I was like, this is hard, and I need something bigger than myself to believe in, right? And that's how I started looking more into spirituality, because religion never did it for me. Like I felt constrained. I didn't feel like
was it like all the rules?
Yes, and just it was boring to go to church. It was like, this is just doesn't, if it doesn't fill all my cup, right? Like if it doesn't fill me up, it doesn't fulfill me, then I want to trust my gut. I'm going to trust my instincts, how it feels in my body, and I'm going to look for alternatives, because I know they're out there. And that's how I I started my spiritual journey, and I went deep into it. I don't know, like a year and some change
What's
ago.
been your material so far?
Huh?
What material have you been reading?
I've been taking this course called Sexual Empowerment Academy,
Yeah.
and then because that was the like spirituality, you kind of come into one door and then you start seeing like the whole universe.
It's a multi-door, yeah.
Right. You can come in to spirituality so many different ways, right?
Oh,
like
God,
you
you really
explain us, the way that you came in. One of the ways that got me into it is to just do marketing for this erotic alchemist. That's how he calls herself. She calls herself.
that.
And then me looking for, like, I'm a very sexual person.
Yeah.
And I was just looking like, am I wrong for wanting this or
No.
liking this or not, right? So, but if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah. If you don't have like a community, right, who's like telling you like, hey, you're not crazy. Like this is actually okay. Like, no, like really. And that's the thing. You got to talk to your community, right? You have
so
to.
that's how I got with her.
Okay.
Because I was starting to like, let me see if I can help you with marketing. And I'm like, I think you can help me.
Oh, yeah.
And then it was like, okay, well, let's help each other.
Oh, yeah.
right?
So-
and that's how I went into that. And the first thing that she taught me was like a breath work.
Yes.
Just focus on the breath, get in the body, get out of the mind. And then from there, start kind of incorporating the body and the pleasure and the, okay, what do you like? What do you don't like? What beliefs do you have attached to that, or all those things, right? So that's how
I gotta meet this girl. Yo.
Oh, you definitely. have to.
I
You
like this.
definitely.
Okay,
Stephanie
yeah,
J.
100%.
Stephanie J is amazing.
I'm gonna hit you up.
I will get you connected for sure. And then from there, like she started explaining a lot of the energies and the polarities, the masculine energy, the feminine energy, the light masculine, light feminine,
Yeah, or the yin and
masculine,
yang.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then that
Yes.
got me into deeper into that. And now, like, I by this time I've been doing yoga already for like 2 years and a half, or something like that. Like by the time that I got there, so yoga was good.
Yeah.
But I didn't join a community to then go deep into the spirituality. So then with Stephanie J, that's what, like, she had a group thing. So I started diving into that community. She connected me with her friends and all that. We went to a festival together, and then that's where we started like implementing things. That was Lightning in a Bottle in California. Amazing. They call it like Light Burning Man.
Okay.
So it's like a lighter version of Burning Man, but it's almost the same values. Very like the same people too. Like, oh, burners all over.
Yeah. No, they're everywhere too, and I didn't realize that until like they're everywhere.
So then that's how I got into it, right? And then with that changed everything for my business, because first I started yoga. Then I went into that, and it was, look, I have all these resources and knowledge of business, and I get it. But then I was missing the personal side, the grounding, the understanding energy, polarities, all that stuff, right? When I started understanding that, like, I look at the world differently now. And I love it, and I love explaining this to people, and I love diving deep. I feel like I'm still a baby, right? Like, I'm a year and like a month in, right?
Well, look, in spirituality, there's like one principle that you need to follow, and that is that you will be forever a student.
Yeah. I mentioned it earlier.
Yes.
Like, it's a forever journey.
It's a forever journey. It never stops. And I feel like that's why a lot of people don't continue it, because they think that there's like a finish line, and plot twist, there is no finish line in absolutely anything in life. Like on self-discovery, it's never over. But that's a beautiful part about it, that spirituality and religion, very, very similar on structure, right? The breath work is actually it's a methodology from India called pranayama. So it's literally the prana is the life force, and then yama is restriction or control. And so what you're doing is you are literally manipulating the internal flow of the vitality within your body. And if you look at the anatomy and physiology of it, right, the vitality is your blood. The vitality is the oxygen that's coming in to literally move things. And then the crazy thing is, and most people don't know this, that your blood actually filters your urine is filtered through your bloodstream.
Interesting.
Yeah, super wild. Yeah, and then like your red blood cells are actually created within your bone. Yeah, I know. It gets really
out of the bone.
Yeah,
too. Wow.
It's really fun. And so when you realize that there is an entire universe of process happening atomically within your body, you're like, oh my God, okay, so I'm actually not just like some normal person. Like, there's a whole entire universe constantly working without me doing anything. So spirituality is becoming capable of literally moving these things. That's why you have like yogis who are like living on top of like a mountain, who are like not eating and can survive in extreme conditions, because it's mind over matter. It's a fact that you are understanding that you are actually completely in control of your body. And a lot of people in their lifetime will never experience this. And I hope they do at some point, but it is the people who question things who are able to go down this path. And I love that there was the sexual alchemist. Is that what I love the fact that she brought it into this, because I was a part of the like BDSM world for a while. It was something that helped me, especially like with managing my like ADHD rage. So I would do like shibari. It's a form of meditation. I
love shibari. I took a workshop during Lightning in a Bottle, and I was like in love with it.
That's beautiful. You see, you know that. There's so many things that can bring you to your spirituality that it doesn't need to happen in a church. It doesn't need to happen in a synagogue. It doesn't even need to happen like with somebody that you give the authority to. Like, you can bring spirituality into your life by ritual, which is just a daily routine, by the way. It's not like, you have to like put a hood on or like light a candle. I mean, you can light candles, but it's just the repetition,
the discipline,
and the discipline, and like this is the necessity of spirituality. If you can show up for yourself, if you can actually push yourself to do X, Y, and Z that you said you wanted to do, you're on step number one. Like, you are literally more successful than most people, and that is what I wish more people would gather from when you start getting healthy. You start really coming together as a whole person, and you think you know yourself, and then all of a sudden you're like, I don't know shit, so it's like, it's just a beautiful journey.
That's I been almost, it was like 9 months and a half, I think it's been, since I sold my house in Oregon, broke up with my girlfriend, and came back to Puerto Rico, where I'm from.
Yeah.
And I changed so much, because I'm not alone. I'm doing things my way. I'm doing everything. I'm restarting, and the way that I eat is so much different. Like, and I do intermittent fasting all the time.
Oh my God, it's the most beautiful thing ever. Like, in the 90s, they were like, oh, you have an eating disorder, right? And like now it's like, no, I can think, right? Like, I can actually like move without needing to take a nap.
Right.
Like,
right. I love, right now it's almost like, it's probably like 4:30 or so.
Yeah, probably.
And then actually it's 5:30.
5:30. Damn it. We can talk.
Going.
We talk.
And then we like I haven't ate anything yet.
And how do you feel?
I did eat very well last night. Like, I ate very well, and I was like, look, today I feel amazing. I feel so sharp. And then I eat. I was like, I want to sleep.
Straight up, no. Literally, I had a steak last night, and I was out like 5 minutes after I ate, like out. But this happens, like, especially with like red meat, like meat, especially like takes a while for me to digest it, and I gotta sleep.
Yeah, I mean, carbs, anything carbs, like, also very heavy. So I wanna ask you. We talk about all like this spiritual journey that you've had in mind. How has your spiritual journey influenced your approach to business?
I don't think I would have a business without it.
Boom.
And like that's the reality. And I don't want people to assume that it's like, I'm Bible thumping, or I'm Torah thumping, or I'm like religious thumping. But I find religions fascinating. I do. I find history fascinating. And when I come from like a very interesting religious background, and then a very like central religious background, as a child, I was like, okay, one has to be right, but which one is it? So I'm like, okay, well, if I don't want to go crazy, I'm going to start with the first one, which I thought was Judaism. I was very wrong, right? And then I found out that the Vedas were actually the first written spiritual and the oldest spiritual written book. And then the Vedas went over to, and it turned into Buddhism. So Hinduism turned into Buddhism, and so on and so forth. And so whether you believe in it entirely or not, when you are able to highlight the similarities that are passed down from a religion to religion to religion, you have to be like, okay, well, maybe some of them like could be correct in a way of principle rather than like factual, right? There's always something that you can gather, like, but having a good morning routine, like you thought that you needed to have this like as a child in order to like be an adult one day, but like, no, we as adults still need to have a good routine. Otherwise, like, we're super thrown off. We get lost in transition. We're unorganized. We don't know where we want to project ourselves because we don't even know where we're at on the game, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So with spirituality, I gathered that above all, know thyself. To know thyself, you need to work on yourself. You need to really dig deep down into it, understand what you're shameful of, understand what makes you happy. And by the way, happiness is a choice. If there are people out there who are thinking like happiness is going to come to them one day on a silver platter, like that is the biggest like falsity that's probably going to happen. Like it is a daily decision to show up and be happy. And once you get past that, you can live in like this sense of not delusion, but of self-assertiveness. Like, I know that the cards are not in my favor, but fuck it. I'm gonna be happy and I'm gonna find the best way.
Yeah, I mean, if and that's also like a belief is like, well, I know believing that the cards are not in your favor, but
Yeah.
I choose to believe
100%.
that everything works on my favor. So whether I see it or not,
I like this.
whether I can think that maybe logically in the moment, the situation or whatever the cards were dealt to me at that moment, it might not be advantageous. It might be disadvantageous, like on a logical level, like me saying it like that. But I choose to believe that my higher self knows better. God knows better. And I don't. I just can't see. I can't see the big picture. So I just choose to believe that everything is conspiring in my favor at all times, even though I might not see it.
This is important.
And then from there, I just work from there. I was like, just breathe, right?
Breath. Gosh, the breath is so important, man. Like, if people knew how much like their entire physical structure changes by the way that they breathe and where they're breathing, I think more people would be like, okay, maybe I actually can heal myself. You know, like look at the way you're walking. That's the biggest thing with my work. Like I'll come into your house and I will straight up like look at just what you do and not like what you do for work. Like I want to watch you just for a day to see how you're walking, where you're weight bearing, how you're holding your breath, how deep are your breaths. I think one thing to remember too, like life, you have to pay to experience things, right? And whether that's money, whether that's time, emotion, like pain is probably the biggest currency in life, both physically, mentally, and spiritually. Once you're able to push past this, like the world is your oyster. And yoga helps you tremendously by just sitting in pain. And it's when you're able to sit within it that you're able to say, oh, wow, it's not that bad.
Use yoga to kind of like, I like Johanna Godinez. She was being in my podcast in Spanish and English. And she's here in Puerto Rico. She's Puerto Rican. And her yoga is called Beyond Asana Yoga.
That's beautiful.
Right, so
it's beyond the pose. That's beautiful.
And she always goes, it's like, hey, we're doing this asanas, which are like the poses, right? So we can make our body stronger. So we can then are able to meditate without feeling pain.
100%.
And that's where like where you really like heal and you cleanse and all that. But if you're feeling pain in your body,
you're not going to touch that.
Exactly.
No,
like you're going to stop doing it because you can't concentrate if you have pain. So that's why like the asanas, right? Like the poses in yoga are really meant to, not just for an exercise thing. It's how do we do this for a holistic health approach.
Like what else in my life am I like saying like, oh, I can't because I can't touch my toes, right? Like you touch your toes after you start practicing yoga, but people are like, oh, I don't want to go into yoga because I'm not flexible. Well, that's great.
I've heard that so many times.
I know, that's wonderful because you're not supposed to be flexible. Like flexibility is a product of yoga. It is not a prerequisite of yoga.
And everybody's different. So I might like I can touch my toes. I can put my palms under my feet, but I can barely like if I'm over my legs open, I can barely fold. Yeah. So in that I've been doing yoga for 3 years and a half now, and I accept that. Look, I'm more tensing here. I have these things. I'm working on it, and that's it. Like bodies are different. Some people have been doing yoga for 10 years, and sometimes there's certain things that they still can do, and that's okay.
Oh, yeah, like
that's okay.
I didn't get a full split until I was like 28. Yeah. And I was doing ballet and gymnastics when I was younger. Like, that's why I was like, okay, you know what? Like, I don't really think we're going downhill at a certain age. I think that you're going downhill at a certain mentality. And you see it in like older people too. Like you see like those people that are like, oh, they're like a kid at heart. Like, no, that's a real thing, right? Like when you're open to trying new things and you're open to like looking stupid and you're open to just to experiencing, that literally changes the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I would be rebellious in a way. Like my job or my company, it is a little rebellious because I'm teaching people, and I guess like throughout history, they don't really like that. Per se, like teaching people to do things for themselves isn't really pushed tremendously in like today's world, or just from what I've experienced, right? So many people are like, okay, tell me what to do. Not like, okay, how do I do it kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's taking people to the path. It's like, hey, here it is, but now you have to take your own, like, I'm not going to carry you.
Yeah. Plato's
through it,
allegory.
right? I'll just show you.
Yep.
Right. And that's it. So, and it's, you can't force them, right?
Yeah.
So they have to do it themselves. So, I mean, clearly you're being on a hell of a spiritual journey, like from since the beginning, like growing up and all that, and then now that you are a yoga instructor and a holistic healer / consultant.
Yeah.
Right.
I like to think I'm a consultant. Like I used to call myself a healer, but I'm not the one who's healing you.
Right. Like we heal ourselves.
You
right?
have to.
We heal ourselves. The healers are there to just guide you.
Yeah,
So
I'm
I
here
guess
to guide you.
The guide.
So consulting. Yeah. If you have questions about spirituality, you got questions about like health, nutrition, I will consult you, So
Amazing.
yeah, it's vocabulary is very important too.
Yeah, definitely. I love defining terms and all that. So like, I sometimes do quote unquote because
nothing wrong with that.
But giving all this knowledge that you have acquired through your experiences and keep moving forward with this spiritual journey. How has your spiritual journey influenced your approach to business?
Well, I wouldn't have a business without it. Really, if it wasn't for my dad passing away in the way that he did at the time that he did, it really was a tower moment. I ended like my 4-year relationship. I was living in Buckhead, Georgia. I was living like the pretty princess life, I guess you could say, of where like was always in the outfits, was always like keeping up with the Joneses in a very pretty place. And then I just looked at the environment and I looked at the people I was talking to, and then I really was just looking for depth. And when you have this tower moment and you lose somebody, right? Like ultimately that's what brings you to spirituality, whether it's like central or non-central. I study religions, multiple religions, but I always believed in like myself more than I believed in the concept of like, a man in the sky kind of thing. So what I did was I learned from multiple different religions, beginning with the oldest one, which was the Vedas, which is the oldest spiritual written book, coming from Judaism. It was very, very counterintuitive a little bit, but it was very helpful because I'm like, oh no, this is the way. And then I realized that was my ego rather than it was the information that I was hearing. Once I was able to separate that, everything just started happening seamlessly of just, like it's like those weird moments where everything kind of just lines up. Like you don't really have to try that hard. And I fully believe that if you're like, you should always fight for what you believe in and you should fight for the things that matter to you. But I really do believe that if you're hitting wall after wall after wall, maybe it's time to have a check-in with yourself to ask, like, is this what you want? Right? Like, are you actually being fulfilled? Are you actually happy? Because if you're not, your body's going to get really depressed. Your wellness is not going to be good. Your spirit's not going to be good. And so our environment is so important that when I made this transition, like literally everybody in Buckhead, and I still have women that reach out to me, like they're like, how did you do it? Like, how did you like leave the thing that people are literally striving to be at one point, but I wasn't being fulfilled. I needed deeper connection. I needed the ability to have conversations about things that might be a little bit like touchy for some people, right? Like saying, hey, like, is this right in the medical field? People are going to put a tinfoil on your hat. But I went to school for biochemistry. Anatomy and physiology was my love and my passion, that I realized that everything is connected within your body.
And within the universe.
Oh, yes.
Separation is a fallacy.
Micro and macro are very, very real in the concept of just intertwining. And so I took what I learned from school, what I did for work, and I basically created an opportunity where I wanted to help people who didn't feel comfortable going to doctors or going to therapists or going, to these like certified people, because in all reality, they're very professional. They went to school for a certain thing. They were trained for a certain thing. They don't have a lot of room for bedside manners to really talk about things that could potentially get them sued. There's nothing wrong with this. This is just the reality of the fact. So I started researching. I started finding different ways to heal yourself through the gut. I started studying Ayurveda, which is one of the oldest healing practices in the world. It's where Chinese medicine actually comes from. And I healed myself. And I realized that I want to allow others the same opportunity. So I created Principle Yoga. Originally, actually, it was called Save Me Too Yoga. Because it was like, what about saving me? And like coming from the medical world, like you're saving other people, but Lord, even like doctors and nurses, like, man, they need a yogi in their life. Seriously. Like
definitely. So that's the right way to like rub medicine that to heal the healers too, right?
Yes.
They also need healing. That's why recording this things like this, it really helps people to kind of give perspective. Really, that's what I want to give people is look, based on this person's experience, that like how you said all your story, this is the truths that you have found or the different things, and then give perspective to people.
Yeah.
And that's how we are able to then
make discernment.
Have discernment, right? And make educated decisions,
yes,
rather than just kind of assuming anything and that's it, right? Like obviously we got to come up with our own conclusions, but at least we have more to pull from,
100%.
right? And what are the values that drive your rebel approach to medicine in order to heal others?
Truth. Truth is a really big one, and I feel like there's so many things that are tied into that, but above all, just giving them the option to discern their own truth from the information that I'm giving them. The other thing is just showing up and change. Like honestly,
change.
Yeah, I don't think that I would be doing this for as long as I have been, genuinely, if I didn't see proof of the pudding of what I was doing. I lose interest real quick on stuff. If I'm not getting a get back from this, like whether it's like a feeling or finances, like, I'm like, this is great. But the change that I've made in so many people that have been affected by things ranging from like narcissistic parents to like abusive partners to childhood trauma to A-type individuals who are literally stressed beyond compare and don't understand how to breathe, right? It's just little changes that make such big results. And I feel like people, when it comes to their health or wellness, they're like, oh, I'm too far gone, that there's nothing that I can really do that's going to change something dramatically. But it's in the small changes of your day to day. It's in the, how am I feeling? How am I waking up? Really, like, what am I doing the first thing when I wake up? Like, are you grabbing your phone? Because that's a big killer. Like, that's a big killer on your productivity, on your motivation, on your insight. And so the truth, by bringing it to my clients for them to make their own decision on what they want to do. There's nothing that I do personally that I will embed in you or that I will force down your throat. Truth. Yeah, this is how you do it. No, it's the fact that it's a trial and error. There is no one way. And once we understand that there is no one way, you're able to have confidence in yourself to create your way. Being there to connect with people, especially in today's world, is so important because we live in such a desensitized and disconnected.
Even though we're more connected than ever through the internet, but we're in the most disconnected in personal side, which is crazy.
It's crazy. The fact that like people are scared to talk to people that are in their community, but they feel okay with talking to a complete stranger online is like, it's wild. I'm like, y'all, we're doing like a catch-22 here. Like something's not mathing up, right? So showing up to people just to give them ground to talk without judgment, without shame, like without really any prejudice, that's healing. So it's in these little moments and these little keys of just being truthful, being connected, and being consistent, and just being there for your clients. Like
I think empathy is a
huge
big
one.
thing, right? Compassionate, empathy, very similar, right? It's
yeah.
just being able to know that if people are doing something to you, is because, especially like something that you recognize as something bad, like they're criticizing you, they're trying to inflict some pain, emotional or physical.
Mm-hmm.
Having the empathy to know that there's because they're hurting, that's something that you have to really be mature and be the bigger person, because it's like, oh, they're trying to hurt me, and then have empathy for the bad person, it's quote unquote, right?
Like I remember my mom told me this quote one time, and she said, and we were arguing about something, and she just looks me square in the eyes and she says, well, it is what it is.
It is.
And I'm like, no, that's what your parents told you. And I respect that. And I understand that you didn't have anybody to be there for you. And I understand like this is how it's been, but like this is not how it's going to be. And so you have to allow people to go into their own journey at their own time. You cannot force anybody to be healthy. You cannot force anybody to see the truth of what's happening in front of them. Because if you're not energetically aligned with what you're hearing, you're not going to hear it. Mm-hmm. So to be a generational breaker.
Right, like break the generational curse, right?
Yeah,
Breaking that generational curse.
But it is, I mean, like abuse. I mean, being told that like you're not good enough. Being told that you need to get married because, you know, you're going to be put out to pasture at like 25, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
being told that like, oh, making $1 million is so much, it's almost like impossible, or you know, all these limitations.
No, it's just impossible
like,
for you.
You know, rich people are evil or whatever.
Oh God,
right?
yeah. Can I just tell you like another reason for my business? Like genuinely, and I mean this. I can't like my family's like a very interesting one, but very A-type. They're very successful. It is one way, or no way, like point blank. And I understand and respect them to the point that this is the way that they live their life, but it's not the way that I want to live mine. Like, I want to have connections, like authentic ones where I'm not, you know, persecuting somebody or placing them in a box for them to be in my life. And so for me to branch out and to literally break away from what everybody had been trying to like kind of get to really was something that a lot of people can't do. Like they can't like let go of like, oh, I'm living this lifestyle. Like, okay, but what else are you doing? You know, like, have you gone through your shadow work? Have you been honest about like who you are, or are you just like living an identity of like who you think you need to be? Because I'm telling you, the person that you are wanting to be, like the healthy version of you, is completely different from the version that you are unhappy. And it's like you don't make the same choices. You don't date the same people. Like, it's completely different. So being the example for other people is really probably the biggest thing that I get back from. And that's why I do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So one last question before we wrap this up is, what are your top 3 self-love habits that you're implementing right now?
Okay, so one of the ones I just started doing over the last couple of months is when I wake up, I look at myself in the mirror.
Work.
I write a lot with white or with erase markers on my mirror of just like quotes or things that I've learned throughout like the week or the day, and I will literally keep the ones that I want to remember.
Interesting. So you have a marker that you can write on your mirror, and you have like a closet with
got a
mirror.
huge like mirror, and so like I even drew like an outline of my body like in the mirror. And like when I wake up, like I will literally highlight whether or not like I'm feeling like really depressed
and where I'm
feeling it.
Wow, that's like doctor's thing, but like life size. I'm guessing, right? You have like a big thing.
Yeah, but it's beautiful.
That's so nice.
Like in meditation, right? Like when you're placing your hand on these parts of your body, you're telling your brain like, hey, by the way, this is where we're feeling. And like you gotta feel in order to heal. And once
gotta feel in order to heal.
In order to heal.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Yeah, in a world where nobody wants to feel, we're gonna stay exactly the same.
Yeah, that's so cool. You know, been doing this that thing of like just because I can see how good that is. It's like, okay, I feel pain in this specific area and this thing, and then you describe it like you would do in the doctor.
Yeah,
right?
100%. Like you can heal yourself. You just need to know how.
Exactly.
100%.
Guidance and awareness.
Yeah,
I would say.
So I guess I am a spiritual gangster in that regard.
Spiritual gangster. You know, I want to be myself a spiritual gangster too.
Oh
Hopefully
my God,
you got me in your gang.
Yeah, seriously. Like once you like just put your shit kickers on and you just say, you know what, we're gonna make it work. You're gonna do fine.
Yeah.
Might never matter.
Spiritual gangster. That's the spiritual gangster way. So to wrap this up, what's the people that you're looking to attract into your space, and how can people find you?
You can find me at principleyoga.com. I also have all of my links are on my website too. You can find my Instagram. You can also find my YouTube and my Twitch stream on there as well. So if you have any questions about spirituality, nutrition, wellness, yoga, I'm not just a yoga instructor. I am a 500-hour RYT with a 200-hour ERYT, and I'm on Yoga Alliance as a certified yoga therapist. So, if you need me, call me. But, call me if you really need somebody, right? Like, call me if you're really ready. Yeah, right? Yeah. I mean, look, I will answer any question. Like, truly, there is no judgment here. I will never judge you. But to show up for yourself, this is step number one. So come to me if you have questions.
Yeah, and if you're looking to heal with a community, you're looking to grow your business, you're looking to heal your relationships too, right? And that romantic, friendship, family, that's what we're building in Medicina Rebelde.
I love it.
That's what we're committing everything. medicinarebelde.com or medicinarebelde.com. All the links are gonna be in the description. We're gonna be talking in Spanish and English. We're in Puerto Rico, but
I'm dyslexic and I fuck up English, so don't judge me, okay? But I can cook tostones and I can make mofongo, okay? So I got my check off mark from the community.
Maybe that's a good idea into a dynamic Twitch stream.
Ooh, I'm down. Oh, I'm 100%
super
down. Oh, I'm so down. Okay, I might come back from Burning Man a little early then.
Yeah.
Hey, oh, yeah.
I'm super down to those Twitch streaming and then talk about all this medicine. But then I'll do whatever.
Oh, done. We'll do Call of Duty and like a wellness comversation. Oh, I'm so
it's
down.
It's gonna be so good. Well, but thank you,
of course,
Aly.
And if anybody's going to Burning Man, 6:30 in F at Camp Naked Heart, 5:30 a.m. yoga. I'll see you there.
There you go, burners.
I know.
So
it's so crazy.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear your stories.
Oh yeah.
We'll do content about it. So this was Alyhope, or at least she calls herself there in Instagram, and JamesLFoo, and this is us signing off.
Bye.
Peace.